Hey, what's going on, guys? Shane here,
Vince the Anomaly.
and today we're continuing the MMA Trinity series. Today we're talking about position before submission. Now, I know I've heard that before, but what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, you've probably heard it a million times in your beginning, lower level jiu-jitsu classes. It's what the instructor is yelling out all of the time, is making sure that you're getting into a good position before you're going for submissions. You know, the reason why that happens is if you're just hunting submissions all the time and you don't have that good position, you're usually going to be losing the sub. So we're going to go over 5 examples today of how you can get into a good position before you go for your submissions, and make sure to keep that concept, running in your mind every single time you're grappling.
Cool. Let's take a look.
Our first move that we're going to be covering today is the guillotine. Now you see this often in kind of like the amateur lower level MMA levels where I'm striking with this guy, I rock him and he kind of wobbles down, and boom, I see that his head is down. His neck is exposed, and I'm going to just go for this guillotine, right? It's open for me, I'm grabbing it, I'm starting to crank, and this guy just runs me over. Exactly, passes the side control, and now I'm in trouble. There's no way I'm going to finish this guillotine here without any type of guard. And if this guy's good too, he's going to hook his arm around and Von Flue choke me from the top. Definitely don't want that to happen. So what our problem was that time was we were going for that submission without having a good position for ourselves first, right? Let's say I do kind of rock Shane, he's wobbly, he's leaving his neck exposed. This time I'm going to go for our submission, but I'm going to get in good position. Remember, we don't want Shane passing to our side control. So as I grab this guillotine, I'm coming around this outside on my hips and legs on the outside of Shane's hips. And then I can either pull guard, or if he starts to shoot that double on me, I'm ready to block with this leg, in which case we can still finish our guillotine. So again, the big thing for this one, guys, is our body position and my leg positioning is on the outside of Shane's hip, so that if he does try to take me down and pass to the outside, I've still got him under control and I can finish this guillotine. For our next submission we're going to go for is right here when Shane's turtled up and we see him expose his neck. We're going to go for our rear naked choke. So let's say I've got on top, I'm punching Shane, I've created some space, I see him leaving his neck hanging there. So I slide this arm through, and perfect. I got my rear naked choke. My arm is through. I'm able to connect my hands, either gable grip or even reach around to the top. And as I start to finish this, Shane works his back to the ground, gets off to the side, and now we're in a scramble. Bad news for us. All right, we had Shane in a pretty dominant position. We were pretty dominant on top of Shane there, raining punches down. We know we can get that submission, but we didn't secure the position first.
Right.
So what went wrong there? Shane's turtled up. What we didn't do is get control of Shane first. Ideally, when we're going for chokes, when we're trying to take someone's back, we want to have 1 hook in, 2 hooks in, or also some type of control on their back so that my back can stay attached to his. I like to keep this seatbelt control. So Shane, if you come up, I'm reaching 1 arm over, and this is going to be the choking arm. And I'm covering that with the other hand, and I've got this nice seatbelt control, okay? So Shane's down, we're throwing these punches, boom, I've got my seatbelt control. Now at the same time, I'm going to switch my feet. This foot is going to come in right here in between Shane's legs, and I'm going to kick him over. Okay, now once we've kicked him over, this foot stays in as our bottom hook. I can bring this hook in, or even if Shane's defending well by bringing his leg up, I don't necessarily need this leg to hook in. I can hook and grab and triangle my legs here, or just lock my legs underneath. And now what we can do is work for our rear naked choke. Once we've got our choke in from this position, Shane's not going to get out. All right, it's game over from here. Try to get your back to the ground. Not going to happen. All right,
No.
So make sure that you guys are able to secure our opponent first, get that hook in, especially if we're going for our rear naked choke. We're making sure that we're getting the same side hook in, and that arm is across the neck, and then we can finish the choke. The next submission we're going to be going for is the armbar from mount. It's a very common submission because once we're punching here, guys tend to leave their arms hanging. Sometimes if they're a little more inexperienced, they're even going to try to bench press you off. So if it's in like a street fight situation, guys are always trying to just, boom, get off me. I'm getting punches in my face. I don't want them there. That arm comes up to push away. And now, look what we got there. Arm, right? It's a gift. So what am I going to do? Just go for that submission? No, doesn't work like that. Remember, position before submission.
That's right.
So when we're here, we got to make sure that before we start dropping for that arm, we got to really secure our positioning so that we're essentially taking away all the space that Shane has to wiggle his arm, wiggle his shoulder, wiggle his elbow, okay? So let's say we're punching here. Shane kind of frames away again. Great, that's good for me. I have the space to grab this arm. But what I'm going to do, and what I like to do, is get this S mount. So I'm going to drag this far knee up to Shane's head. If I want, I can be punching. I can frame right here, drag that knee up. Now on the other side with this leg, I'm going to be collecting that arm and bringing my foot up and around. So it creates like an S type of shape here. Now, as I'm doing this, how does that feel, Shane?
I already have no move from the shoulder down.
Yeah, his shoulders are stuck in. I'm also keeping all of my weight on top of him, all right? I'm being nice right now by putting some of my weight on my feet, but when we're going for it, we really want him to feel the pressure. So I'm crunching his head in, and I'm putting weight on Shane's stomach, on his sternum. Now, I'm still not just going to drop for this arm. I have it secured. You know, I have it ready to go. But what I'm going to do is step over and pinch my feet and knees together. So I'm still taking away more space, but I'm still not going to go for it yet. All right? Sometimes once I bring this leg over, this guy on the bottom is able to wiggle his elbow down just a tiny bit, and now it's below my hips. So even if I drop for this, I still can't finish the arm bar. His arm is coming out. So I want to make sure that when I step over, I feel that my hips are below his elbow, and then I have control here. Now finally, when I feel like I've got everything locked up, I can either grab this leg or I can just start grabbing the arm and dropping for the arm bar. Sorry, you okay?
I get the
Little
crack.
pop there.
I'm good.
That means that we're taking away all the space. Once we drop down, we're going to pinch these knees together, turn the thumb to the sky, and my hips are going to go up, and we're going to get our tap.
Had the other hand trapped too, so I couldn't tap.
That's the importance of getting good position, right, though? Trapping both arms there if it happens. If not, either way, we're isolating that arm. We're making sure everything is pinched and it's airtight. Nothing's able to wiggle around.
Airtight. That's a good visualization there.
Yeah, everything in jiu-jitsu, guys, we want to be taking away space as much as we can. If we're on the offensive, especially if we're on top, take away space. Take away space, make it airtight. Let's say we're working here from the bottom and I've got a really good triangle game, right? So what I want to be doing is stuffing one arm in, throwing my legs, getting my hips up, essentially locking this in right there, pulling down, getting this arm across as I can. But once I've locked this up, Shane's doing a pretty good job defending. He's sitting back, he's keeping this elbow nice and tight so I can't pull his arm over, and eventually I'm just going to have to let this go. If this guy's all the way back like that, his posture is good, I'm kind of screwed from there, so I'm going to have to let go and work for something else. You know, it's not a good situation if we're doing this MMA grappling where, you know, I threatened, I did everything really good, but I let him build back up and now he's on top and he can still rain strikes. Or in the judge's eyes, you know, he's on top. The person on top is pretty much always winning in the judge's eyes.
Right.
So instead of throwing that triangle up and trying to lock it up right away, what I like to do is once I get my ankles crossed up top, above here, like I have these short, stubby, and flexible legs, so I can't just lock it up immediately. But once I've got this kind of locked position where one arm is in, one arm is out, I'm going to make sure that I secure a better position before I go for the triangle submission, okay? And what that means is I want to get to more of a perpendicular 90-degree angle here. I'm going to pull Shane's head down, and now from here, I can grab onto my own shin. On the opposite side, I'm going to put my heel to Shane's hip. Now once I've done that, I'm still controlling this posture so he can't just pull me up like he did last time. Yeah, we don't want that happening. So I'm going to hold his head, I've got my ankle, I'm going to kick off to the side. So I'm trying to get as perpendicular as possible. Now once I lock this up, it's going to be easier for me to lock my legs, and I have a really good angle to finish this triangle, right? I can stomp this leg down, I can curl this other leg. It's a popular one from Ryan Hall, and I saw this years ago and I've been using it ever since for my triangles. But what I'm also going to do is underhook either this arm or ideally this leg so I can keep more of an angle. Now once I'm here, it doesn't matter if I get Shane's arm across or not. I'm going to stomp, pull, and I'm going to get my tap.
Ugh.
Sorry.
My head was going to explode on that.
I kept you in there for a while, my bad. So the important principles to catch there, guys, is I was controlling the position first the second time, right? I didn't let Shane posture up. You know, I threw my legs over, I locked them up. But before I started just completely locking my triangle and start cranking on it as much as I could, I tried to cut an angle on Shane. So I did that by controlling his head, controlling that posture, and then I underhooked either the arm or the leg, and I was able to really put some force, put some pressure on that neck there so we can get the tap. Now our last submission we're going to cover today is the Kimura from the guard. Alright, so if I'm here in Shane's guard, and I see that his hand is on the mat and it's resting there, you know, we're taught beginner level jiu-jitsu and stuff. Okay, hands on the ground, that's Kimura City, right? So I'm going to lock it up, I'm going to reach over, grab it, I'm going to sit back and just crank it, but it doesn't always work. Alright, so look what Shane did. That's good defense. He's bringing his arm inside of his leg, his hip, so I can't just rip his arm back. This is kind of more of a strongman move anyway, so if I'm smaller than my opponent, it's going to be hard for me to just grab it, sit back, and crank that Kimura. Not going to work. So I want to make sure I have a better position before I go for this. So let's say Shane's arm is on the ground, or let's say it's on my hip and I cleared it to the ground. Either way, I want to go for that Kimura, but what I like to do, guys, is get my hips up nice and high. So I'm going to open up almost like I'm going for that hip bump sweep that we showed a little while ago, but I'm getting my hips above Shane's. Now the reason for doing that is, yes, it's going to make it easier for me to grab this Kimura because his arm is exposed, but it's going to make it easier for me to get perpendicular. Again, that's the angle that I want to take on this Kimura because it's going to allow me the leverage to really finish it. As a smaller guy, it's going to allow more leverage, and at the same time too, it's going to make sure that Shane isn't able to pull his arm inside and defend how he did before. So I'm going to grab this Kimura. Again, my hips are higher than his. I'm grabbing this Kimura and I'm cutting this angle. Notice what I did there with my leg. I've got this position secure by clamping down. I've cut the angle. Now I make a nice V shape with his elbow and hand here, and I pick it up for the tap. Shane's got good flexible shoulders there. Most people will be tapping right here. Now if I cut this angle and I don't clamp down with this leg, it's going to be easy for Shane to just kind of somersault roll through, and he's out of it. Okay, so that's another important thing to watch there when you're going for this Kimura. Get your hips up higher than his. Make sure you cut that 90-degree angle. And also, once you go for that, clamp down with that other leg so our opponent can't roll through. Position before submission.
All right, guys, there you have it. Position before submission. As someone now who's focusing on his grappling more and more, I know that I try to rush it. I see an arm, I see a neck, and I'm like, I got to go for it. I got to get to that finished position right away. But I never get it. They always get their head out or they get their arm free. And it's because I'm rushing. I'm not taking my time. So I think patience is key here, is really trying to do it step by step to make sure that you secure the position so that you can get the submission. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to get the fight tips before your opponent does. Follow this man on Instagram. Links in the description below. He's going places, and you guys better hop on board of that train. Until next time, I'm Shane.
Vince the Anomaly.
Fight tips for the underdogs.